Welcome back to another project. In this project, we are going to create a random password generator. As you can see from the final version of the project, we have a container here with a title random password generator, and we have an input with the icon for copying the password, and also we have a button for generating the password. If we click on the button, we see a password is generated randomly from different characters. And if we click on this icon, we're going to copy the password and see a notification here saying the password is copied. So now if we go to a new tab, for example, here, we delete this one and we can paste the password using Ctrl V. And the password is the same as the password here. So we're going to do two things in this project. First, we're going to learn how to create random password. And also next things we're going to learn is how to copy a text inside a project and a website using a button and copy it inside the clipboard. And also we're going to learn how to bring the notification inside the project. This is going to be a little bit intermediate to advanced project. So in the next section, we're going to start with the HTML part of the project. So see you in the next section. All right, let's start our project. First, we open the Visual Studio Code. Here we close the Get Started tab. In the File menu, we click on the Open folder, and as usual, I would like to create the project in my desktop, but you can create it anywhere you like in your computer. So here we click on the desktop, we click on the New Folder button to create a new folder. We name the folder Random Password Generator, which is the name of our project. We press Enter, and here we click on the Select Folder button. We close the Get Started tab, and here on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and we click on the New File. We create our HTML file and we name the file index.html and we press Enter. On the right side now we have our index.html file, which is completely empty, but we can use an exclamation mark to write an HTML5 boilerplate. So we write an exclamation mark and we press on the first auto suggestion. Now we have our HTML5 boilerplate, and the first line is doc type, which tells the browser which version of HTML the page is written in. In our case, as we are using HTML5, we need just to have HTML in the opening tag. Then we have the HTML tag, which covers the head and the body tags. The lang attribute inside the opening HTML tag sets the language of the page. And in our case, we set the language to be English. The head section includes the metadata and the title tag. The charted attribute inside the first metadata tag defines the HTML character encoding, and UTF-8 is recommended by HTML5 because it nearly contains all the characters and symbols. Then we have the compatibility meta tag, which tells the Internet Explorer browser in particular to use the most recent rendering engine, which is Edge. The viewport meta tag, which is the last meta tag, sets the browser's initial zoom level and the width. In other words, it tells the browser on how to resize the page. We can use Alt-C to turn on the word wrap so we can see all the codes. The first section in the viewport meta tag sets the page's width to device's screen's width. For example, the mobile screen's width will be smaller than the computer screen. Then we have the initial zoom level of the browser, which is set to be 100%. This tag, which is, the title tag, sets the title of the page. In order to see the browser inside the Visual Studio Code, we can use the Live Preview extension. We just need inside the index.html file, right-click and click on the Live Preview Show Preview. Now we can see the browser on the right side, which is completely empty, but with the title document. Let's change the title to our project's name, which is Random Password Generator. We can close this Explorer section to have more space on the right side. So we open this a little bit more, and inside the body section, first we create a div with a class of password container, which is the main container. Then we have the title of the container, which is a h2 tag, and saying just random password generator. You can see it here, and also you can see the title in the tab of the browser. After the h2, we have a div that covers the input and the icon for the copying the password, and we call it input container. And inside this div, we have an input with a type of text. So we don't need to write down anything, but with the ID of input, also with the class of input. So here, now we have an input with a type of text as a default. Then we have an ID and class, and also we need a placeholder just saying create password. You can see here, but we don't want to write anything inside the input because we just want to generate the password and we copy it from using an icon here. So we don't need to write anything inside this input. So we make it read only. So we write here read only. So here now we cannot write anything. All right. After this div, after this input, we want to have an icon. And in order to have icon in our project, we can use the Font Awesome website. So we go to the desktop, and here we click on the Google Chrome or any web browser you want to use. And here we search for Font Awesome. In the search results, we have fontawesome.com, and in subsections, we click on icons. So we go directly to icons. There are plenty of icons inside the Font Awesome website. We just wait for the website to be loaded. Today, I have a very slow internet, but it takes a few seconds. And in the meantime, in order to use the Font Awesome in our project, we need to add a link to the Font Awesome CDN to be able to use the Font Awesome. So in the new search bar, we search for CDN.js to find the CDN of the Font Awesome. So as in the search result, we see cdnjs.com, and we click on it, and we search here in the search bar Font Awesome, and we click on this section. And we scroll down a little bit, and we click here to copy the link tag of the Font Awesome CDN. So we go back to Visual Studio Code, and just under the title tag, we paste the CDN of the Font Awesome. And also we go back to the Font Awesome website. Now that the website is loaded completely, we search here inside the search bar the icon we would like to have, which is the copy icon. As you can see from the search result, we have many copy icons. These are pro, so we need to pay for them, but these are free. So we click on this one. And here we can click on this HTML tag to copy it. This is just an I tag with a class of FAR and FA copy. We click here to copy the HTML tag, and we go back to the Visual Studio Code, and just under the input, we paste the link. As you can see, we can see the icon inside our project. And after that, we need a button here to generate the password each time we click on this button. So under this div, we create a button, and we just add a class of btn to it, and we press enter. And inside the button, we just write generate. All right. The next things we want to have is when we click on the copy icon, we want to have a notification saying that the password is copied. The notification comes few seconds and goes away after that. So in order to have that one, we just need to add, after this password container div, we create another div. We call it like alert container. It's just an empty div with a class of alert container. So later we're going to add the text inside it and everything using JavaScript. All right, that was it for the HTML part of our project. In the next section, we are going to start styling our project using CSS. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have finished with the HTML part of our project. In this section, we're going to start styling our project using CSS. First, we need to create a CSS file. We can open the Explorer section again using Ctrl-Shift-E. And on the left side, in the Explorer section, we right-click and we click on the new file. We name the file style.css and we press enter. Before using CSS in our project, as the same as Font Awesome, we must add a link to the CSS file within the HTML code. So we go back to index.html and just under the CDN of the Font Awesome and at the end of the head section, we just add a link tag and we just write link and we click on the third auto suggestion, the one with the CSS. Now we have a link with the relationship between the HTML file and the external style sheet. And the href attribute is the destination of the link, or in other words, is the URL of the link. And as both files, I mean index.html and style.css are located at the same directory, we just need to have style.css for the URL. Now we can use the CSS in our project. We save this file using Ctrl-S and we close this Explorer section and we go to style.css to start styling our project. First, we start with the body section. We just write body. We open a set of curly braces. And in order to bring everything to the center, we just need to add display flex. And in order to bring everything to the center horizontally, we can use justify content center. Then we have to set the height of the body section to the 100% of the viewport height, which is the size of the screen. And then we can use align items center to bring the items to the center vertically. And that's fine for the body section. We forgot to remove the margin, the default margin, which is around 8 pixels, and we just say margin 0. The other things, let's change the font of these texts using font family, and we just set it to be Courier New. And as you can see, we have a kind of passwordy font, and that's it for the body section. We can use Alt-C to turn on the word wrap so we can see all the codes clearly. And after the body section, we start with this box, the container at the top, which has the class of password container. We copy this, we go to style.css, we add a dot because it's a class, and we open a set of curly braces. We change the background color first, we can see what we are doing. We set it to be pink, and we set the width to be 500 pixels, and we add some paddings to push everything inside a little bit. We just say padding 20 pixels. So now we have a nice looking container. Let's add some border radius and around the borders of the container using border radius 10 pixels. And we just add some box shadow. So we have some shadow effects around the element. The box shadow property, the first value of the box shadow property is the position of the horizontal shadow. We set it to be 0 pixels. Then we have the position of the vertical shadow. We set it to be 4 pixels. You can see it here. Then we have the border radius. We set it to be 8 pixels. And we set the color to be black by using RGBA function with 30% transparency. We set 0 for red, green, and blue. And we set 0.3 for alpha value, which means 30% transparency or opacity. Now we can see a beautiful container. Let's add some margins. So when we decrease the size, we see some space around the element. So we just set that margin to 10 pixels. So in this case, in the mobile screen, they have a beautiful container as well. All right. That was it for the container. Let's style this input section. The input is inside the div with a class of input container. So we just say input container. And for input container, we want to bring, we just add some border. We set it to be like a solid. You can see the border now. And 2 pixels for the width of that one. And we just say black. It's black already, but we just in case we write black. And we add some padding. So we have more space around the elements inside this input container. We just set it to be 10 pixels like this. Let's add some border radius. So we have a rounded one. So we just say border radius 10 pixels. And we want these items to be, this icon to be at the end and this one to the left. So we change the display to flex, and we use justify content space between to push everything to the different side. And for bring everything to the center vertically, we can use align items center. Also, we don't want this input to have background color or anything. We get to it by just changing this input, and the class is input as well. So we target that one. We just say dot input, and we remove the border first because we already have border for the container. We just say border none, background color to be transparent, and we just everything looks fine, but yeah, we still, when we focus on it, we have some text. We don't need to focus on it because we are generating the password, and when we have something inside, we cannot see the focus value. In order to remove the focus, because in this case we don't need it, we just say outline none, and let's change the color of this. So let's add something inside. So wait, we just say add some value here. We just write something so we can style it here, and later we're going to delete this section. So first we change the font size and make it a little bit bigger. We just say 24 pixels, and we add some space between the letters using letter spacing, and we set it to be 4 pixels. And yeah, everything looks fine, and yeah, that looks okay to me. Let's remove this. So later we're going to generate password and set the value using JavaScript, but for now we just remove it. And for the placeholder, we are going to style it. We don't want the letter spacing for the placeholder, so we just say dot input. We can tap to the placeholder pseudo element using double clone, and we change the letter spacing to 0 pixels, and we change the color. The color looks fine actually. We don't need to change. All right. After that, let's style this icon, and this icon actually we can make it bigger inside this class by adding a class of fa2x. All right, and then we just add a class. We can use this class for styling it. Fa copy. We copy this and we come here, And we just change the cursor to be pointer. So when we hover over this icon, we see a pointing hand, and we change the opacity to be 0.3 as a default. But when we hover over it, so we use the hover CSS pseudo class to change the color of this icon when we hover over it. So we just change the opacity to, for example, 0.7. So we have a hovering effect. All right. Let's install this button next. So the button has a class of btn here. So we target that using .btn, and we just change the background color to black. We change the color to white, so we can see the text inside the black color. Then we remove the border using border none. Let's see. Let's add some padding. We just add some 10 pixels up and down and 20 pixels left and right. And let's add some border radius, for example, 5 pixels. And we add some margin to the top and bottom, for example, 10 pixels, and left and right to be 0. And let's add the size of the text inside by using font size and 20 pixels. This one looks okay. And when we hover over it, we want to change the color. So we add this hover pseudo class, and we change the background color to be, for example, green, like this. Let's add the cursor to be pointer here as well. So we have a pointing hand when we hover over the button. Then when we click on it, we want to change the size of the button a little bit. So we say btn active, and we change the size using transform property and scale function, and we just set it to be 95%. So when we click, we see a change to the size of the button. Yeah, everything looks fine for the button and for the input. The next things we want to install is this class with the alert we want to have here. So we target this alert container by using its class here. So we position this one fixed, and we give it some width and height so we can see it. Width is 300 pixels, height is 50 pixels, and then we add a color to it, the background color to be light green, for example. And you can see it here. But we want this to be at the bottom right corner. So we position this one. We just say right 20 pixels and bottom 20 pixels as well. Let's add some border radius, for example, 10 pixels. And we add some box shadows similar to the one we did for the main container. So 0 for the horizontal shadow, 4 pixels for the vertical, 8 pixels for the blur radius, and also we want to have a black color with 30% opacity. And inside this, the text, we don't have any text yet, but we just write something like a password copied, and let's install this. So we bring it to the center using display flex, justify content center, and align item center. All right. Let's increase the font size to be 20 pixels. And it looks fine, but we want to remove this notification after, for example, 4 seconds. And in this case, we want to add a class to this, for example, the class of active. And when this class is applied, we just say dot active and this class dot alert. So we want to we want to put it outside. For example, now it's in the right 20 pixels, all right? But we want this right to be, for example, minus 300 pixels. So it goes outside. Minus 200 is like here. and 300 is outside. And also, we do this one using JavaScript. We add and remove this class using JavaScript. So just for now, we have it here. So anytime we add the class of active, we're not going to see it. We're going to use JavaScript to add and remove this one. And also, we're going to add some transition in the next section. Yeah, that was it for the CSS part of our project. In the next section, we're going to add functionality to our project using JavaScript. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have finished with styling our project. In this section, we are going to start using JavaScript to add functionality to our project. First, we need to create a JavaScript file. We can open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and we click on the new file. We name the file index.js and we press enter. We bring it here at the end, and before using JavaScript in our project, we must add a link to it inside the index.html file. So we switch to index.html, and just at the end of the body tag, we add a script tag. We just write sc and we click on the second auto suggestion, the one with the src. As both files, the index.html and index.js are located at the same directory, we just need to have index.js for the URL. We save this file and we close this Explorer section, and we go to the index.js to start adding JavaScript to our project. First, we need to bring this element inside JavaScript using the query selector method or the get elements by ID method, because this button has the class of btn. We can bring it inside JavaScript using query selector method. So here we create a constant and we call it btn element, and we equal it to document.querySelector method. And because it's a class, we just need to add a dot here and we write btn. We can use Alt-C to turn on the vote wrap so we can see all the code. And the things we want to do, we want to add an event listener to this button. So when we click on it, we want to create the password. So we just write btn element.add event listener, and the event we want to add is click. So we write click here, and after clicking, we want to trigger a function. So we create the arrow function. We just write a set of parentheses, a fat arrow, and a set of curly braces. So after clicking, we want to create the password. So we can create a separate function for that one. We just we call that function. We just call it create password, and here we're going to create that password. We just write function create password, and first we need to define the characters we can use inside the password. If you go to the final version of the project that I have provided inside the course, and inside the folder random password generator, there is a text file called source.txt, and I just provided some characters you can copy from here, which is just some numbers from 0 to 9, the alphabet from A to Z, lowercase and uppercase, and also some symbols. So we copy this and we go to Visual Studio Code and we create a constant called characters or chars for short, and we put it inside a double quote. After that, we just another constant, we just say how many characters we want to have inside our password, or in other case we can say password length. So this one is equal to, for example, we just say 14 or 16, whatever you want. All right, depending on the length of the password and the character we can use, we want to create the password. So the password at the beginning is just, and we just write password. At the beginning is just an empty string, And then we want to add one by one the characters randomly until the 14, the number 14. So we create a for loop. We just write for and we click on the second auto suggestion, the one saying for loop. And as you can see, we have an index starting from 0. We want it to be until the password length. So from 0 to 14 in this case. And we want to, between these characters, we choose one, we create a random number, and the number will be the one we want to use and choose the character. So we create the random number here. We just say constant random number. We just say random num, and we create this random number using a random method, as we want to have this random number between 0 and at this until here. So we need to multiply this to the character's length. So we just say char dot length. And also we want this random to be like an integer. So we just add some math.floor because it contains all the numbers. Now we want to just floor it to the lower number. So now we have a random number from 0 to the end. And we want our password that we created here, which is an empty string for now. We add a new character in each loop. So the character, how we choose the character. So inside this, we just say characters from here dot substring. We want to choose a substring based on this random number that we have created. So the random number from the now random number until the random number plus 1. The substring works like this. If you want to get the first character, you can write 0 and 1 to get the first character. If you want the second one, you just have to write 1 and 2, and so on. So when we create a random number here, for example, we create the number 8, and then here we get the 8th number, which is 7, because it starts from 0. All right. If we console log, we can understand it better. So we console log here the random number and also this password each time. We open the console using open DevTools pane, and we need to call this function by clicking on this generate. When we click, as you can see, we created, in our case, 14 random numbers, and from beginning, the first number was 38, and the 38 was this hashtag. So the first character of the password is hashtag. Then we have 12, which is the letter C. All right. So, and then we have 12, which is O, 60 is G, but capitalized, and so on. And until the 14th character of our password, we created the random password like this. And each time we get a new one. As you can see, each time we're creating a new password. And the ones we want to put inside this input is the last one, which is the complete password. All right, we delete this console log, and we just created our password, and we got it. We just need to change the input of this here. Instead of create password, we see the password that we have created. First, we need to get this input from the DOM and put it inside the JavaScript. So the input has the class of input and ID of input as well. So we can get it in two ways. We can get it from using get element by ID method or query selector method. It's better to get it from the priority is ID for the JavaScript. So we get it here. We just say const input element, and we just say document.get element by ID, and the ID is input. So now we got the input, and at the end of creating the password, and after this loop, we just set the input element dot value, which is the value that comes here, equal to the password. So when we click on the generate and the password is generated, after that, we see the password inside the input.value. And each time we get a new password. All right. The next things we need to do is to add the functionality to this icon. So when we click on it, we want to copy the password inside the clipboard. So let's bring this icon to the JavaScript. The icon has a class of FA copy. So here we can bring it using query selector method. So we just say const, we call it copy icon element, and we just say document.querySelector, and because it has a class, we just write down FA copy. And after this, we can add the event listener to that one as well. So we just say copy icon element dot add event listener, and the event we want to add is click, and after that we want to trigger a function. So we can create a different function for this one as well. We just call it copy password, and we create the function at the bottom. All right. So this one, we want to just first we need to select this one like this. So the input one, we want to select it using the select method. So now when we generate, when we click on this icon, we're selecting it. So this select icon is okay for the desktop, but for the mobile, if you want to use your project for the mobile, it's recommended to add this as well. So you have to write input element dot set selection range. Set selection range. Set, not say. Set selection range from 0 to 9999. So this section is only for mobile. So if you don't want your project to be used in mobiles, you don't need to add this one. All right. So this one is working, it's selecting. Now we want to copy it. In order to copy it to clipboard, we have to just say navigator dot clipboard. And for copying, we can use the write text method. So what we want to copy is inside this input element dot value. So we want to copy this one. So when we click now and we copy it, and let's do this inside the browser. So we open this inside the browser, and then we copy this, when we click this, and then let's paste it here inside this. You can see that it's already copied. I just use Ctrl V. So I'm not using any Ctrl C. Let's create a new password, and we click here to copy, and we go here, and then we just paste it. All right. So it's working. And the next things we need to do to create this, to bring this one password here, instead of saying password copy, we just write the password here and copy it, and make this notification work as well. So we want to change this text here. So we need to bring this div with a class of all alert container. So we copy this alert container. We just under this, we create a constant, and we call it alert container element, and we create document.querySelector, and we just say dot, and we paste the alert container. So after the copying the password, we want to change this alert container dot inner text. We want to change the inner text to, instead of just saying password copy, we want to get the password, and we just say copied, and we add an exclamation mark. Let's test this. Yeah, inner text, it's not working because we don't have access to this password. So we just bring this one here. So when we created actually this one, let's add some space, because we don't see the notification at the beginning. So before even clicking on this one, we can create this text. And then when we click on this one, we copy it, and we bring this notification inside the website. So the user's gonna notify that the password is copied. But before clicking on this icon, you're not gonna see this notification because we don't have access to this password, because this password is inside this function. So we cannot put it here. All right. So let's add this animation. So when we copy this, when we click on this one, we want to add and remove the active class. So in default, we want to have this active here, so we don't see the notification. But when we click on this button, we want to bring this notification inside. So here, where we just say alert container element, and we just remove this active. We just say dot remove, and we just say active. So we generate a password, and we click here, and now we see the notification. But it comes very quickly. We want to add some transition to this alert container. So we just say transition, and we add a transition like a 0.4 second. Now we see like this. All right. And then we want to remove this notification after a few seconds, so we can use set timeout method. So when we click on this, we want to active a set timeout method, and we just set timeout method sets a timer that execute a function here, execute a function after the timer expires. For example, we set the timer to 2 seconds, and we want this alert container and class list, we want to add this active class. All right. So now we test it. We just create a random password. We copy it. It comes. And after 2 seconds goes. We test it again. But the other things is when we don't have any password, this icon is still working and saying password copy. We don't want this notification comes when we don't have any password. So here we can add a if statement, and we say if there is something inside this, there is something inside the input element dot value, then we want to do all these things. So we cut this and bring it inside. So if now there is no password, when we click, no notification comes. But when we have a password here, when we click, the password comes. All right. Yeah, it's working perfectly. Yeah, that was it for our project. I hope you enjoyed and learned many things. That was a intermediate to above project. I hope you learned many things and enjoyed the project, and see you in the next project.